If you're listening to this episode, I bet you're wondering what behaviors you're doing that keep you from getting your needs met and ending up in situationship after situationship. I got you. I've created a situationship quiz and I'm so excited about it. Take the quiz to discover more behaviors and more tips for navigating situationships, because I know you're in more than one right now. No judgment, boo-boo. I used to have 5 situationships at a time. Yes. So you're not alone. You can find the quiz at www.dontea.co/quiz. That's DONTEA.co/quiz. I'll drop it in the show notes as well. Okay, back to the episode.
So don't just lean into your chart and use that as an excuse for a bad behavior because you were born with this chart. You can operate like this. No, we're supposed to grow and learn as humans.
Hey loves, my name is Dontea and I'm your fave self-worth therapist and coach. And this is my show, Situationship. This show is about getting out of toxic situationships that go beyond partners to family and friends and everything in between, to living a life of joy and self-worth. Okay, let's get into it. Hey loves, welcome back. I'm so happy you're here. I have a very special guest and I have so many things to say about my journey to getting this guest on the show. And I'll say that after I introduce her and let you all know who is going to be here today. But you probably already know from the episode title. So, okay, cat's out of the bag. I am here to introduce Tamerri, astrofashionista, as you can see on her social media, website, things like that. Tamerri is a certified professional astrologer, Reiki practitioner, and founder of Gift of the Nile, products for spiritual wellness. Love that. Rooted in ancient Egyptian ritual. Interesting. With over 15 years of experience, Tamerri has advised thousands of people on how to tap into their personal gifts to align with their soul's destiny, life purpose, career path, and improve and attract healthy relationships and partnerships. I love that. Tamerri, thanks for being on the show.
I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
You guys, let me tell you, I feel like, and I probably need to work on this, I feel like a literal nobody out here in my podcast world, doing my thing. And when I came across Tamerri on the relationship podcast, I'm thinking, if she's on that big brand podcast, how, why would she come here? And I reached out and then boom, here we are. And I'm just blown away, a Black female astrologer. Tell me, where have you met someone like that before? So thank you so much.
No, happy to be here. We got to support each other. So
yes,
thank you for reaching out.
Of course. So let's just jump right in. Let's get into more about how you found yourself in this work. Do you feel like it's becoming more common in the Black communities to get into astrology? What has your experience been so far?
Oh, I love this question. First of all, we started this ish. Sorry, that's a little bit controversial. But
no, we love it.
It's tied into my journey and story, and I'll try to keep it as brief as possible. So my dad is an African history scholar, Mathuater. And he actually, our last name is Sudanese. That's a long story in itself. He changed his last name so that we wouldn't have slave names before I was born. And so he named me Tamerri, and Tamerri is an ancient name for Egypt, or Kemet. Kemet is an ancient name for Egypt. Egypt is a European name given to the land. Mm-hmm. Ta means land. Tamerri, gift from God's land, or gift of the Nile. And so I always think that I love names, I love purpose, and I love that my dad was so intentional about that, because it really has kind of led the foundation for how I got into astrology. So I actually had a naming ceremony when I was an infant, and his friend conducted it, Baba Doye. He's still a spiritual advisor to me to this day. And he said, she's born under the sign of the bull. He did my natal chart reading. and had all these tips for how, my dad and my mom should parent me, based on my natal chart. And so this was, I'm 39, I'll be 40 next year. So this is 1984. So, astrology has been around for thousands and thousands of years. So fast forward, when I was 13, we had a really tragic family, situation where I lost my mother to suicide, and it completely changed the direction of everything in our life. My dad became a single father. It was a lot. And so as a teenager, I struggled a lot silently. And, outwardly, I was always very popular and social and achieving, and inward, there was just a lot that I was keeping to myself in private. And so when I was about, graduating college, it was, you're going out into the world, and I really was struggling emotionally at that time, just trying to figure out what am I supposed to do? And I've always been a person that's what's my purpose? I've always actively sought that out. And at the time I worked in an office, I'm from LA. And so I was working in marketing in Beverly Hills, and the Astro twins, a lot of people that are into astrology might have heard of them. They're twins, and they're professional astrologers. They've been doing this work for a very long time. Ophi and Tali, I always shout them out because they're a part of my journey. So their manager worked in my office, and I was like, oh, I love astrology. I want them to do a reading. And so they looked at me. They're like, you're either a Taurus or a Scorpio. And I'm a Taurus sun, but I have a Scorpio rising. And I'm like, how did they do this? Not even before they even looked at my chart or ran the chart. And I was like, okay, I need to learn how to do that. And so this was 2005. And so I just started, I went on a journey, I bought the first book. All my first astrology books are up there, cover to cover. I was like, oh, there's so much more to this than I thought. And I had, I grew up with us talking about astrology. So fast forward, I'm doing all these, I asked all my friends to send their birth times. I'm doing all these readings and just for fun. And my Capricorn boyfriend at the time was like, you need to get paid for this. Why don't you start a business or something? And I'm like, thank you, Cap. And I'm like,
Cap, exactly.
Thank you, Capricorn. My mom was a Capricorn too. I seem to attract that. So is my ex-husband. But we haven't gotten to that part yet. But I was like, nobody's going to pay for astrology. I just didn't, it wasn't as popular as it is now.
I believe it.
Probably 2007 or something like that. So, anyway, long story short, that relationship ended, but, years later, my Scorpio boyfriend was a web developer for a very big brand that we all use every day. And he created a website for me. And so I launched this business in 2015. I'm just going to do it and announce it. And I had always worked in the beauty industry, or for a good chunk of my career, I worked in product development for several different brands like Murad and Dermalogica and Hatch Beauty. So I'd been doing product marketing and product development. And so I would do readings for people at work. And so people would stop by, and I'd pull cards for them. And it was just that community of women, mostly women, was very supportive. So when I launched, it was really just people I knew. And it's something that I've always done in the evenings while working. And so the thing about astrology, it's helped me so much in my life. It's really been a tool for healing for me. I've used it to anticipate career moves and, figure out what my purpose. Once I really understood my chart, this Taurus sun, Taurus Mercury, 7th house, Leo midheaven, a career point, Scorpio, 4 planets in Scorpio, Scorpio rising, Aquarius moon. There's this this spiritual aspect, but also this physical thing that I'm always trying to balance, the beauty side and the deep side. And so I think when I came up with Gift of the Nile, it's kind of satisfying all those areas of my chart, the healing for people, that deep spiritual healing, because it's a wellness brand that I want people to use in their life for daily rituals to bring healing to their day every single day in little moments. And so, when I created the product line, I incorporated Egypt because that, my name means Gift of the Nile. And they were some of the first to practice astrology and to use the stars to help guide them through their life. So it all kind of organically came together. I didn't force it. It all came at the right time. And then I didn't really want to make a outer beauty product. I felt like the world has enough beauty products. People need healing. And so I wanted to create something that was more about wellness. And then, and then the astrology naturally is incorporated. So like my first products were these aromatherapy mood mists. They're behind me, that are tied to the 4 elements, earth, air, fire, and water. And you can, so if you're a fire sign, you don't need a more fire. You might want to use water, or if you want to use fire, that's okay. And so the idea is that we have every energy in our chart. And that's the thing I love about astrology is that we all identify with these things like, oh, Taurus gang, Leo gang, but we have every energy in our chart. And so we need all of them for the complete whole person. And so that's kind of, how the brand was birthed. That's a little bit about my journey and how I got here. And so, I really am here. I work mainly with women, but men love it too. Venus and Aries in the 6th house, day to day work with women. So I'm here to do my part to bring more healing to the world. Yes.
So those of you who are listening, if you feel like, she's just saying Venus in the house and Scorpio and Aries, like, what? Huh? Okay, just nod your head along. I'm sure it'll make sense soon. And this is what happens when you talk to a professional. Like, what you're saying. I'm still very new to this. I don't even feel confident in saying this. I think I just know that Saturn is your 11th house. What? See, I don't know. I don't know.
Worry. So we all have Saturn somewhere in our chart.
Okay.
It depends on when you were born. So it won't, I'd have to see your chart to see where your Saturn is.
Okay.
Some people do have Saturn in the 11th house. If you have Saturn in the 11th house, you probably have difficulty in friendships and interpersonal relationships.
Excuse me? Ma'am.
Or you have a select few solid people that you call friends and they're lifelong. So there's different ways to express, but Saturn in the 11th is just a placement. And do you have that? Do you know that about your chart?
I feel strongly. That's why I thought, and again, a Leo, I think everything's about me and I think we all live the same life as mine. So I'm getting Saturn is in 11th house because I think that's what mine says. And so I thought.
Well, what's your birthday? Do you want me to pull up your chart now?
Who is doing the interview? Let's see, my birthday is July 27th. You guys are getting a real treat because this was not part of the plan.
Well, now I have to know because I don't want you saying the wrong stuff about your chart.
Listen.
Okay, so July 27th.
July 27, 1990, 12:10 a.m., Seattle, Washington.
Okay.
Yes, everyone, I'm nervous. That's why I'm quiet.
Don't be nervous. Okay, so July 27, 1990, 12:10 a.m., Seattle, Washington. You don't have Saturn in the 11th house. You have Saturn in the 9th house. So I'm glad we're doing this. And you're a Taurus rising.
Yes.
Which is so we have mirrored charts. So because you're a rising Taurus, I'm a sun Taurus, and I'm a rising Scorpio, our charts, and if we did synastry and laid our 2 charts together, there'd be an overlap where my sun connects with your ascendant and your Mars, and my rising connects with your Pluto. So there's already a good sense where we could be friends. And you have a Libra moon, and I have an Aquarius moon, an air sign moon, and your Libra moon is at 8 degrees, and my Aquarius moon is at 4 degrees. So there's synastry there with our moons, so we get along. So as a Taurus rising, Venus, I'm just going to do a quick little read.
Okay, well,
because I know we have more to talk about. But Venus is the ruler of your chart. Venus ruled charts are people that are pleasure seekers. There's a big part of your life where harmony is what you're after.
Yeah.
Your Venus is in the 3rd house of communication and learning. So you probably enjoy learning, writing, speaking about family issues because Venus is in Cancer. Family, and you're a therapist, right?
Yes.
So family, home. In the 3rd house, your Jupiter is exalted, meaning you have a strong Jupiter. Jupiter likes to be in Cancer, conjunct Chiron. Chiron is a planet that shows where we're wounded in our charts. And it's close to Jupiter, so you have this ability to heal people through education. So that's coming out very strong.
Nice.
Mars is in your 1st house. So you have a lot of drive, but you're someone that needs to be motivated and feel good to go after things. Mars in Taurus doesn't move until it's absolutely ready. And you have to be mentally prepared to get there.
Yeah.
Your moon is in the 6th house. So habits are important for you to set up for yourself, especially habits that are pleasurable because moon is in Libra. I think for you, affirmations, writing, any type of communication, or even if you have like a friend or somebody that you talk to every day to kind of stabilize your day is something that could be good for you. Now, Saturn in the 9th house next to your midheaven, Saturn, it shows where we need to mature, be strong, where we learn lessons. And that's around spirituality, travel, higher learning. And so your Saturn's right next to your midheaven, which is a career point, which tells me that you put a lot of effort and time into achieving your goals and you're not afraid to sacrifice to get there. But you're probably someone that also, if you're not, you need to travel and learn about other cultures. That really enriches you. And professionally, you're supposed to, because you have the North Node in the 10th house in Aquarius, you're supposed to be reaching people on a large scale and helping humanity in some way. So that's a little short read.
That is a lot for me. Thanks for the short bit. If that's just the short bit, I can only imagine what the longer version is, which I was thinking even before you agreed to be on the show. I was like, I'm just going to sign up for a read because, why not? So thank you for that. I really appreciate that.
You're welcome.
So you were talking earlier, you use it for your own life decisions, maybe personal and professionally, family. Is that kind of what you do? Do you return to your natal chart, or do you just remember it so well at this point? You just kind of sit and think with it.
I mean, I look at it quite often. It's quite a balance for me as an astrologer because I can anticipate. So here's the thing. Astrology can be used for, and I think this is where people get a little rubbed the wrong way when it's like predictive work or you're trying to tell the future. It can be used for those things because you're just tracking cycles, and it's just, what's the planetary energy right now? What does this manifest as? What is likely coming up for me? And so I do a little bit of that work only for people's benefit. So I'm not here to scare people or tell them bad news. I'm here to help them with whatever their goals are. So let's say they want to get a job. I'm going to say, well, next spring you have Jupiter in the 10th house. That's an optimal time to go after and be supported in your career. So that's how I'm using that predictive work. A lot of what I like to do is the deep spiritual, who are you and why are you here? Because your natal chart is really, we didn't even define this, but your natal chart is really, it's a snapshot of how the cosmos looked at the moment you were born, and it's a roadmap for your life. And so it's a guide, it's a map. It's like if God imprinted this map, okay, this is what you're going to use. This is the tools and the cards you were dealt. How are you going to go about achieving the things that are in your natal promise? And so what I'm trying to do is help people achieve the best parts of their natal promise. We all have difficult, hard things that happen in life. I mean, I've definitely had my share of things, but there's ways to make it to where it's easier to deal with and you're seeing it as a part of your experience. And so bringing it back to, if I use it, yes, I do, but I also try not to live so much in the future out of fear or things that are coming up. And it's a struggle. It's a constant struggle for me. I know what's going to come and where it's going to hit. I just try to accept the now and say, okay, what can I do now to better and maximize where I'm at today so that I'm constantly improving as a human in the future. So it's a balance. It's not easy. But that's why I think my work with others is so much more powerful than me just trying to use it on myself. Because then it's not about me. It's about helping other people. Because it's hard to get caught up in that,
I can only imagine, I don't know if this still happens to you today. I can only imagine maybe earlier on, the older women, older Black women, whoever, Christians, whoever would get wind that you're doing this kind of work and how you had to protect yourself and stand up in it and be like, yeah, this is what I do. And for not people to be afraid of you or maybe even attack you. I can only imagine what that was like.
Yeah. I don't know if I've ever really been attacked. I have had my fair of skeptics, right? When I'm in a room and I'm just talking about what I do. And it's just one aspect of me. I've had I'm proud of the things that I accomplished. I mean, I went back to business school, top executive MBA program. And And I worked on Gift of the Nile in the program, and I showed up unapologetically as an astrologer, which took a lot of guts and courage for me. So I'm still working on that, like unapologetically showing up as myself and not caring what other people think, because I'm a serious businesswoman and I want people to take me that way. But I also don't care what people think. And I think that's that Aquarius moon, like, trailblazer. Like I've always marched to the beat of my own drum. Like I was raised to be different and a thoughtful person. I didn't grow up Christian, but my family, a lot of my family was Christian. My dad's family was, he was raised in the church, but he raised us more to be spiritual and respectful of every religion. We have the Quran in our home and we learned about everything. And so I think religion is a great tool for practice. Like it's different from spirituality. Spirituality it's spirit. It's within you. The religion is just the active practice of that, right? Or the tool that you do to practice spirituality. And all of the books are saying the same thing. So to me, there's room for all of it. And honestly, my response is that, most priests in ancient times, the priests, people that did this holy work were astrologers. It was, when Christianity expanded, that it no longer served the church to be attached to astrology. And so it became a separate thing and they kind of, condemned it. But it was one of those things that it was naturally a part of spiritual work in ancient times. So I think if you read the Bible, there's a lot of nods to the stars and, and all of that. So I'm not going to argue with people because I don't really want to change anyone's views. I only care about my own views and how it helps me and who I'm helping. So it's an interesting thing, but it's definitely more acceptable. It's more openly talked about. And I think people are finding a space you can be Christian and still like astrology and that's okay. Or Muslim or Jewish or Buddhist.
So. No, you're right. And I have one more question about that. Then I want to get back to something else. And this might not even make it in the show. My own curiosity is like with the Egyptians and other people who have studied astrology way back when, because I'm always thinking like, but why? How? Like, did they go to the space? Like, how does someone...
That's a great question. Well, if you think about it, just from thinking about it, they did not have phones. They survived on learning Earth. And that's the thing about astrology that I love. When people doubt the connection, astrology is not only about the stars. It's about cycles and listening to what the Earth is doing and how are the planets and the stars affecting what's going on here. If we're a part of this vast universe, why wouldn't we be affected by that? The moon's gravitational pull has an effect on the ocean's tides. We know this. We are affected by sunlight. When the sun rises and sets, we're affected by that. That's all astrology is. It's tracking cycles of how we're seeing this. So there's a very much a connection between the stars and what physically happens to our Earth. And so ancient civilizations, they literally were farmers. They were, they had to prepare for the floods. Every time the star Sirius rose, the Egyptians knew the annual flood was coming in August and they had to, that was where they got, once that flood came and hit Kemet, the land, Tamerri, land, when it hit that, they were able to harvest and have food in abundance from this Nile River flood every year based on the rising of the star Sirius. So it's all connected. I think people look at it as a separate thing, but it's not. And so to me, it makes sense that ancient civilizations relied on this because they weren't distracted. And I think people are we live in a rat race, right? And I think people are finally starting to understand that we need to get back to, or at least this is what I'm trying to do, is get back to the basics. Like, how were we what can we take from the ancient civilizations and how they were living and bring mindfulness, a respect for Earth, a respect for, silence and quiet and inner wisdom and not being distracted. Like that's all that I'm encouraging people to do, especially when they're using my products. It's all connected.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you.
That was a long-winded answer.
No, please listen. This might have to be split up into part 1 and part 2 because I think it's all great information. Thanks for sharing that because I was thinking like, how does this even come into play? If you're listening to this episode, I bet you're wondering what behaviors you're doing that keep you from getting your needs met and ending up in situationship after situationship. I got you. I've created a situationship quiz and I'm so excited about it. Take the quiz to discover more behaviors and more tips for navigating situationships, because I know you're in more than one right now. No judgment, boo-boo. I used to have 5 situationships at a time. Yes. So you're not alone. You can find the quiz at www.dontea.co/quiz. That's DONTEA.co/quiz. I'll drop it in the show notes as well. Okay, back to the episode. So you were mentioning earlier, like you use your chart to kind of help you guide you through life. What happens during those times when maybe you saw something coming and it still really hurt? How do you self-reflect? Like, how do you not beat yourself up? Because my chart says this and I should have seen, it doesn't make sense.
Right.
Okay.
Oh, it makes complete sense. I actually really love this question because I don't think it's ever been asked in all the podcasts that I've done. But I think, so there's the anticipation, and I'll give a real life example. Planet Uranus, or Uranus, however you want to pronounce it. I call it Uranus. It's the planet of unpredictability. Okay. It's excitement, it's action. Think electricity, hurricanes, things that happen out of the blue. Good or bad, that's Uranus energy. And it can disrupt. It can be disruptive, but it can also change you if you're in a rut. And so it moved into Taurus a few years ago. And I was nervous because Taurus rules my 7th house of partnerships and relationships. And I'm a sun in Taurus. Yeah. And I remember Susan Miller, she's a famous astrologer. I love her. I've been following her work for a while and I've met her several times. And I remember talking to her and saying, like, I'm worried about this Uranus transit in my 7th. And she's like, oh, don't worry about it. So long story short, when that started to happen, I decided to go back to business school. I had gotten married already and we were planning a family. We had bought our house, just planning. And I quit, not quickly, but it seems like overnight, I didn't want to be married. And it's not like it happens. It wasn't like it was like a instant thing. It was like I was aware of the things that weren't working and where I was going in the future and that our paths weren't aligned. Okay. And so it kind of shook up my marriage life to where things were revealed, like this isn't supportive of me. I don't want to live in this. And there was a lot of deep things that I obviously don't have time to discuss. And it took me some, I went to therapy, hired 2 black male therapists to help me work through this, and ultimately decided that this isn't right. There's probably a better partnership for me. So that knowing that Uranus transit was coming, I was afraid of it, but I did not see me being the one that felt different, but it made sense because it was on my sun, and sun in astrology is your identity. So my identity changed, there was nothing it was my growth. It was my soul's growth. It was time for my soul to grow and elevate. And this person wasn't going to be on that track. Now, the good thing that I also saw is that Jupiter in the North Node, also I had eclipses going on in my 1st house and my 7th, my personality and my relationships. So all relationships changing around me, not just my marriage, friendships, meeting people, but Jupiter brings blessings. Okay. So I know Jupiter bringing blessings in Taurus until next May, a new relationship will likely manifest that's more aligned. And then the North Node will cross my Venus relationships, ruler of that 7th marriage house. And I'll probably meet a more destined, soul aligned partner. And it's not that our souls weren't aligned with my ex-husband. We definitely were. It's just there's probably a better alignment for me coming. And so because I know that's coming, I'm okay to release and I don't let that fear stop me because I know I have the support coming also. So it's just the knowing helps, right?
The knowing helps, which is very similar to my work, where I try to help my clients get in that space of just knowing that a lot of my clients struggle with being single and they don't want to be single and they want to be partnered and they want to be married and so on and so on. And so when we find ourselves single, we know we don't want to be single. It's very hard to be like, someone is out there for me. It's easier to say my ex was my last chance. This current partner is my last chance. Nothing is coming for me. Even though I can say, just based on pure math and odds, there's other people, right?
Right.
For you, you're able to say, I know because of what my chart says.
Right.
And those who whether don't practice that, haven't had their chart done, it's like you can still just know and believe that it's coming.
Right. And we live in a society that, and you know what, I am like glad this topic is coming up, especially for Black women, because we get it the most in terms of relationships. We're told that if we're successful, we can't have a 100%. Successful man because he doesn't want that. Or we're told that the odds are against us because there's not enough men. And if we're dating it within our race, and it's just not helpful information. I mean, it is, but it's like at some point you have to step away from that and believe, right? And so like, if you can believe in God and you can believe in, now I'm not saying just believe and not do the work, because there's work. I mean, this is the work that you do, right? It's like becoming a better person and more equipped to handle things in life. But like, there's a part of life that's not explained by statistics, and statistics are always a sample pool of information, right? And it doesn't include everything. It's impossible to include everything. So you got to take the statistics lightly, and you have to believe. And a part of a lot of us, we know in our guts what's best for us. And our charts shows like kind of how we go about moving. But if you have that information of the chart and then you follow your intuition, which we all have an intuition, and you also put an effort on being the best person and you speak the things that you want, I really believe that you can call in whatever no matter what the statistics say. Because if that's the case, no one would get up and do anything based on a statistic, because the odds are against us as Black women, first of all. So, I think with the relationship thing, it's such a thing that I'm passionate about. I think that it's a thing that I am such a relationship oriented person and I love relationships, but I also value my alone time. And I think, and it's so cliche, like self-love, getting to know yourself. It's true. Like you really need to know yourself, strengths, weaknesses, and this is what your chart helps you do. Knowing yourself inside out so that you know what's best for you. And you can identify when a person does show up, no, this isn't right for me. This is a person that I can build with. Like it just helps you in finding a partner. And all partnerships are not meant to last forever. And I think that's another thing, is that it's okay. I think I really struggled with like the divorce thing, because no one gets married to get divorced. At least I don't think they do, unless you want some coins or whatever. But like, I really struggled with that. And then I came to a point like, whatever, it's life. Like we're supposed to learn and we're going to have failures, quote unquote failures. It's not a failure. It's just a learning experience. And it's a part of my story. I'll get up and try again. Mars in the first house. You have Mars in the first house too. Like keep fighting, keep going for better. And so I think people, I understand most of my clients only come to me for love or career. Like that's the thing that people want to talk about the most. And so, yes, I'll help with timing. Like this might happen around this time, but like ultimately you need to know yourself and be the best self, so that when that person shows up, you're not selling yourself short. You're not settling. You're not just jumping in something because you're codependent. Like, and there's all these things why people want a relationship so bad. And we're enough, right?
100% and more than. Mainly because Black women have to be more than enough.
Right.
So we're already like the stellar, the shiniest trophy. And we already know what that path is. And so when people say, could you dim yourself just a little bit more so you can meet this person, so you could be friends with them? Like for me, since I was 11, how old am I? 33. I knew I didn't want children. Knew that.
And that's fine.
Right? And so then a few years ago, my ex and I broke up because I was like, you know what? We have to really decide. Because he was like, yes, maybe. And I was like, no, 1%, maybe. So when I finally decided 100% I don't want children, I remember, we broke up and that was hard. And I was talking to one of my male friends and he was like, people always want to try to connect you with other people to date. And he was like, what are you looking for? And I said all the things. And I said, also someone ideally who doesn't want children. If they have children, that's something else I'm trying to work through. Ideally, both of us we don't have children. His first response was, oh, that's going to be hard. That's going to be hard for you to find.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what?
Right.
What? What do you mean?
Out of the billions of people.
What do mean? Yeah. Hard to find.
And honestly, it should be hard. Okay, so it should be hard to find your aligned partner, right? And when I say should, I mean it's a serious decision.
It is.
Like the partner that you choose for your life is going to, it can direct your path. So people either help you or they can bring you down. So a lot of times it is easy for people, and I can see that in the chart. But a lot of times it should be hard because you're looking for this diamond, this, you know, this little pin in the needle in the haystack that's like your perfect match.
Yeah.
And that's okay, but it doesn't mean it's impossible. And just because it's hard doesn't mean you should not try. So what are you supposed to settle and make yourself unhappy knowing this about yourself?
Yeah.
Because it's hard. No, because if we gave up when things were hard, we wouldn't achieve anything.
No.
Saturn is hard. That's energy. That's hard energy is Saturn. We all have Saturn somewhere. And so we have to work with it. We have to learn to work with things that are hard.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm like, no, I'm not gonna, I'm supposed to just have a child, like literally have a child. And then be that
that's
mom.
The most important work you'll ever do.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And deal with that.
Right.
No. Some of the things we wanted to talk about was like self-healing using the natal chart. I don't know if you are comfortable talking more about your divorce. You don't have to. I'm free to share many stories. How could one self-heal using that?
Right. I'm an open book. So, because I think most people can relate than not. Okay, so I use my chart because astrology is based on cycles, right? So it shows, you know, if we have a sun transit and our sun is in the 10th house or Mars is in the 10th house, that's more of an energy of action. We're going after, we're achieving things. And then there's a time maybe where you have a 12th house transit where you're supposed to be more quiet and introspective. And so I try to follow the transits, and I use numerology. I mean, I use all these different tools to kind of settle into the energy versus going against an energy that's not helping me. So I try to swim with the stream and swim against it. So for instance, right now I'm in a 6th year in numerology, which is about family and home and love. And so ironically, my divorce is final. I've been surrounded by friends and love. I've had so much love this year and so many joyous moments to kind of balance out that difficult situation. But in my numerology for the month, I'm in a 7 month. And so 7 month is more about going inside and being in quiet. And I'll be in a 7 year. It's a quiet, spiritual, getting back to yourself. And so I'm using this time, and I'm a workaholic. So I'm using this time to really, I mean, I was in business school for 2 years, working a full-time job, juggling, building a new business, juggling astrology business, getting divorced, trying to sell my house. Like every life situation I could have possibly gone through, I was going through it. And so now I'm like, I am willfully quieting down. And so I'm trying to learn to turn it off, because I feel like you can be more productive when you give yourself periods of rest. And so I'm willfully doing that now. My meditation practice has never been as strong as it is this year. So consistent in it. My journaling practice has never been as consistent as it's been. So consistent in it. Like I just have these things that I'm like, I'm feeding myself because I don't want another failed relationship, quote unquote, even though I just said that no relationships are failed. I really don't. I don't want that. And I don't want to just jump. And I was dating someone this summer, but I don't want to jump into something. And I want to make sure that that person is completely aligned for me. And the only way I'm going to get there is if I feed myself and I'm completely comfortable, happy, accepting where I am today. And I constantly work on this every day. Like I'm happy. Life will go on whether you have a partner or not. So are you going to look at the lack if you're someone that wants a partnership and look at it as like you're missing something? No, you have today, right? Like what are all the other things? Because you might get that partner and then your parent gets sick, or, I've gone through that. After I got married, my dad had a stroke 2 months later. And then he had to move in with us. It was the thing that probably made the biggest crack in our marriage from the beginning. And so, I've learned the hard way that life doesn't stop. You only have today. find these little moments. And so I'm feeding myself. And so I'm doing that in the 7th month. Next month, I'll be in the 8th month. It's about getting my business and my coins. I'm launching new products.
Yes.
I'm going to be a little bit more busy.
Yes.
It'll be holiday season.
Yes.
And so I go with the cycles. I try to ride the wave so that I'm not struggling. A lot of our struggles and our grief comes from ourselves. It's from mind stuff.
Yep.
Yes, emotions. And I just journaled this today. I said, my emotions are different from my mind. I try to give myself the space to feel, which is hard for an air moon. You have an air moon too. So you're a thinker when it comes to processing emotions, but we have them, right? So I'm trying to give myself the space to cry when I need to cry, to feel when I need to feel. But there's a certain point where you let it out and your mind takes over, right?
Yeah.
And so your mind controls a lot of the grief that we experience. So I'm working on, and I've always been about mindset, but I'm really actively working on, if I'm obsessing about something over and over, like this looming thing, this thing that's happening, stop.
Yes.
And my ex-boyfriend's mom, the Capricorn, she did this for me when we were broken up, because she was calling me. She was like, I was just like crying over this. She was like, just stop. Just make yourself stop. And I was like, oh, that works. Like, just tell yourself to stop. Right? So I'm really working on that. Like we can really direct our day and change the course of our day. And a lot of that takes meditation work.
Yeah.
It's a skill. It's like work. It's a muscle that you have to train. So that was a long answer, but
no, we love it. We love long answers.
I'm the queen of self-care. I'm queen of self. There's nothing.
Yeah.
If one thing I'm going to do as a Taurus sun is going to self-care.
I love that. Okay.
Right.
You know, I can learn a lot from you, because for me, I'm realizing that I have a strong rebellious energy, spirit, whatever you want to call it. Hearing you say that your ex-boyfriend's mom said, well, just stop. I would feel like,
right.
Don't tell me to stop. I'm trying to stop. Like, it would be like that. Like, I'm trying to stop. Don't you think I can stop? I want to stop right now, and I don't want to stop. Maybe I need to keep thinking about it. Like, that's what is happening inside.
She's a Leo too. That's so funny. She's a Leo. And my mother-in-law was a Leo too. They were one day apart. So funny. And they're both Capricorns. Ex-boyfriend. Wow. Yeah. It's so funny. Yeah. I mean, it's easier said than done. Like, I don't want to tell people, like, emotions are real. We cannot suppress that. Like, and it's hard because I think there's this ultra, like, I don't forget what it's called when you're like overly positive and like, just pick yourself
like
up
toxic
and
positivity.
be positive. Toxic positive, like, that is impossible. Like, we are humans. There's no way we can be on, as someone that's mostly positive. I think most people would describe me as a very positive, but I have moments where I go dark and and no one sees those moments. Like, I am really just, I have all these Scorpio planets. So it's these deep feelings that I do feel when I allow myself to feel, but I try not to beat myself up for it, and just let it pass and know that this too shall pass, and emotions are fleeting. And for me, it's so important, as someone who had a parent that took their life in a moment where she was clearly, because my mom was someone that no one would have ever thought did anything like this. She was the strongest person I knew, outwardly. Yeah. And so for me, it's more important than anything to know that emotions are fleeting. Yeah. And so I'm constantly trying to remind myself to just let it pass, and there'll be another day. Like, I think and I love this story in Egyptian mythology about the sun god Ra. And one of my products is named after him, Amun-Ra. Every day he went on a journey to the underworld to fight this serpent. And that's when the world went dark. Like, this is the mythology. Like, he rose and he was victorious. And because he was victorious every day, we have sunlight. And then every night he would go down and do the same battle so that humans could have sunlight. And so I really look at life that way for humans. Like, we go through these battles, but every day that we get to wake up, we have another chance to be victorious and to go at it. And until we take that last breath, and even I believe when we take that last breath, our spirit lives on, and maybe we come back in another form. I don't know. Yeah. But like, as long as we are here, we have another chance. And so I really try to live in that, and really encourage people to do that too. Cause life is hard. It's hard. Like, it really is. And it doesn't get it. We have so many things coming at us every day. So to protect your peace is something you have to actively do.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, Tamerri, like, listen, this is the episode takeover. Clearly, I'm here to listen and absorb. And I literally told myself before I got on, I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna be sitting in the audience, truly, because this You know a lot about other things that I cannot speak to.
So here's the tea about your natal chart. So if you're someone that's run it or you're familiar with it, the two places that I look for in relationships or when I'm doing an astrology, well, there's probably three main places. I look at the moon sign because the moon shows what we need emotionally to be nurtured.
Okay.
It shows what will fill us. I think it ends up being more important in relationships than your sun sign sometimes. Compatibility. So your moon sign, that's emotions. Your Venus sign, that's actually relationships. It's like your romance style, what you're looking for in a partnership. Mars is more sex and chemistry. And then your seventh house, in your descendant, it's a point that's opposite your ascendant. So when people ask your rising sign, your rising sign is Taurus.
Yeah.
So your descendant, your opposite sign is Scorpio, right? Because Taurus is opposite Scorpio. So your descendant is in Scorpio. So you need a partner based on your chart, a long-term partnership where there's a lot of depth, where it's not surface level, where you guys explore these topics, someone that's passionate, loyal, kind of predictable because Scorpio is a fixed sign. Perhaps they're good with money and resources, but your moon is in Libra. So you like harmony. You want someone that you can like enjoy things with, whether it's going to a museum or a nice meal out or shopping and experiencing those Venus type of things. And Venus, again, is the ruler of your chart. You're probably a pleasure seeker. And then your Venus is in Cancer, like I mentioned. And so Venus, you also are very closed off at first when it comes to partnership. Like you want to make sure that person is safe for you to open up to. And you're a nurturer. You naturally know how to nurture and take care of people. And so you need someone that is not going to take advantage of that. They're receptive to that. And so that's really how it works in the chart. Once I have like those bits of information, like your sun sign Leo, that adds another layer to it because as a Leo, you are someone that needs to show up boldly and expressive and, that person needs to be able to be loyal and all that stuff. So it's like taking all the little bits and pieces and finding out, okay, who's the ideal person for you? And once you know that, you're able to go out into the world and be a little bit more present in when people come up to you, like, and say, oh, well, this person, like if let's say, for instance, you meet an Aquarius, and I'm not even saying that you wouldn't be compatible with Aquarius, but I'm just saying, let's say you meet an Aquarius and that's your opposite sign, interesting enough. And they're super logical and they're like, look at things as black or white. They facts only. I don't know if that's going to work for you as someone that, that Venus in Cancer, that yes, the Libra moon is a air moon, so it could work. But you need someone with a little bit more empathy because Venus in Cancer and that Scorpio descendant. So that's kind of how it works.
Ooh.
And it's not an easy thing.
Listen, you're stirring some stuff up because you're saying, I'm just imagining people could be saying like, but hold on. I thought, because when I go to Google and I type in most compatible with Leo says, I think for me, it always says Sagittarius. Gemini,
Aries.
Aries. Aries. Libra, I think I see it sometimes, right?
They're going to say air and fire signs because as a fire sign, fire and fire could do well, and then air feeds fire. So that's what the default, but it's so much more complex than that.
Yes. So you're saying
it's a good starting point.
It's a good starting point. I think I also hear you saying, though, is also go off of what your chart says and see how that aligns with that person. Regardless of their sign?
Right. There's a synastry chart.
Oh, what?
Yeah, because when I do relationship readings, I'm taking that person's chart and I'm taking your chart and I'm laying them on top of each other and looking at how the planets interact, and I'm looking at your composite chart. What's your relationship like? And so it's a lot of those, like the basics that you're going to Google is not enough information. There's aspects. There's how the degrees, how close they are. There's the North Node. Is it a fated relationship? There's Chiron. Is there healing that needs to be done? It's a lot. It's very intricate to do a synastry reading. So you definitely, if you're using astrology to find a partner, you're going to want to go to a professional that knows what they're doing about how to find, especially if you're in a relationship and you're kind of wondering, like I remember from the ex-boyfriend, I always refer to him and read in these interviews because not only did he encourage me to go through astrology, that was like my longest relationship, longer than my marriage, and it was my most growth. And so I remember, like, why isn't this working out? Like, we've been together so long, like Capricorn, Taurus, and I had to see another astrologer to speak my language, to show me, you have this Uranus square all these planets. Like, it's at some point, the fun and excitement, you either need to live in different, and we started off long distance, like that stable life together wasn't going to be, we outgrew, you know, that was a moment in time. It wasn't supposed to be forever. That was for growth. And so, like, you need sometimes when somebody breaks it down, like, this is why you guys keep having these upheavals, because you have this aspect here that doesn't change between you.
I see.
And you might love them, but you're always going to have this difficulty to deal with. Will the good outweigh the difficult? And you're going to have, no synastry is perfect. I've looked at thousands of charts. There's no way to get the perfect synastry. It just doesn't exist.
Okay.
You want to outweigh the easy aspects with the difficult ones, and see, do you have the longevity to get through the difficult ones? Because you're going to have the difficult ones. And that's a little bit of a science. So
what would you say to someone who, so example, I'll use myself. My current partner is an Aquarius.
Oh, that's so funny that I chose that.
I know, right? I was like, I'm just going to let her talk. Hey, tell me something. Aquarius, February 2nd. And my sister, one of my older sisters, her birthday is February 3rd. And so I was like, oh, I know this life. They're a little different. They're a little different. My point is, what if I was like, no, we're going to get married. It has to happen. Like, what would you say to someone? Maybe you've had that. You tell them, okay, this is what I see now. And they're like, no, I'm going to stay.
I never tell anybody what to do, by the way. Never.
You just give it to them.
I am not here to tell people, I don't want to be a part of that decision. I take that back. I don't want that weight of that decision on my soul or my conscience.
Yes, I get that.
I have enough going on over here. So I am here to guide you. Because if you're coming to me asking about your partnership, 8 times out of 10, there's some little smoke there, and they're contemplating. No one comes with a perfect marriage saying, I just want you to read me and my husband. No one. I mean, I've done it for clients before, just like out of curiosity, but like usually it's like they're coming because they're doubting something. And so I'm just confirming what they kind of already know. But I would never tell someone to make the decision to leave or to stay. I'm just saying, these are the facts. And they usually confirm, oh yeah, this is what happens all the time. We have this pattern because the pattern's in the chart. I can see it. And so they make that decision. A lot of the times people do come back and say, yeah, I broke up with that partner, or they'll say, like you said, I broke up, but I met somebody else, and like, this is great, and thank you. So there's been all kinds of scenarios. You'd be surprised. There's been, it's almost, I know you as a therapist, like you get like the deep, intimate moments with people. And I feel like I get those moments too, because when people are in these readings, the emotions come up. I might say something and then it like triggers how they're feeling and they cry. And I'm like, I'm allowing you the space to cry. Like, this is just me and you. And so, there's a lot that goes into it, because we're just I'm just a guide, right? None of this is information. I'm a vessel for them to figure out their own chart and to work through their emotions. Maybe it's, God wants them to know something, and I'm here to give them the message.
Yeah. I love that. I tell my clients the same thing. Like, I'm not going to tell you what to do. We're just going to talk about what's coming up, what you want, and how that aligns,
Right.
What I hear you saying is like, I will tell you the things in the chart, whether it's like your personal or synergy wise, and the decision is yours. Like, if we're saying we want a healthy relationship, if we're saying we want to be partnered, and you identify what kind of partner you want, and you can confirm that by the chart, then the decision is yours. If like you refer to your ex, I oftentimes refer to the Sagittarius. It's December. Woo! Listen. It's just, I just get wrapped up like in it. And I know, I was sucked in that for years. I feel like we would be so great together. And I know I would be a mess. And so it's like, what am I going to do? This person wouldn't be that kind of person that can go deep with me. It's all superficial. It's all about money. It's all about glitz and glam, you know? That doesn't sustain me.
Right. And interesting enough, if he's a Sag, his sun falls in your 8th house, which is a house of depth and transformation. So his identity was there to help you transform and go deep, and maybe the sex was good because the 8th house can be related, you know, to that. I mean, whatever. I'm trying to get on your business.
We can talk about sex on here. We never had sex because I knew.
Oh, okay, there you go.
I knew I would be like, chain me to the bed. I am at your will. Right.
Yeah, especially with that Leo fire, the fire. And then, whereas Aquarius rules your 10th house of career and destiny, and your North Node is there. And so when I was saying that your destiny is tied to, you know, helping people on a large scale, humanity, doing work that other people aren't doing, working, you know, in some eccentric way, maybe technology is involved. Aquarius, North Node, you said February 3rd.
February 2nd is his birthday.
Oh, February 2nd. I didn't put him in, but I think his sun falls really close to that North Node. So there is this like destined pull, and he probably helps your career in some way, or, you know, where you're going.
Yeah.
You know, there is this like kind of fated pull because the North Node is close to his sun sign. So yeah, I can see that at least, but he is your opposite as a Leo sun. So there's always going to be a balance to you, right? Like your opposites bring out the things that you need to see, or maybe where you need to stretch yourself. Because with the North Node in Aquarius, you need to become more Aquarius-like. So he's actually stretching you to become more open-minded and not see things so me-centered.
Again, listen, I feel like I'm being read. You're right. Because everything's about me. Everything's about me. And I work with that every day. And he helps me with that. Right. He helps me take you out of it. He's so supportive. You know?
I love that.
So I appreciate that. But we're not going to let him hear this episode.
Oh, yeah. No, don't validate. Because when Aquarius is right, they get so rigid about their ideals.
And it never leaves. Never stop hearing about it.
Right. I also want to, the other side of it is I think a lot of people use their charts for excuse, though, for bad behavior. Ooh. Like people that are really into astrology are like, well, I have this, and this. It's like, okay, this is our natal promise, but that doesn't mean that we're not supposed to grow, right? Mm-hmm. And so I don't like that other side of it where it's like, I know my chart, well, girl, I have an Aquarius moon, so no.
Mm-hmm.
No, that is not going to be healthy for you as you embark on this life. It's a tool.
Yeah.
And so you lean into the good parts of that, and you might have to work on the things because every sign, like the sign is not important, it's the planet. Astrology is planet signs and houses, like the basis of a natal chart. The planet is in the sign. Mm-hmm. The sign doesn't have the power until the planet gives that sign the power. So every sign has positive and negative traits. So if you read about Leo, you're going to read, all these things that
doesn't matter what's negative.
You know what I mean? Right. Yes. But we all have a shadow side is what I'm trying to say.
Yes.
And so being aware of that shadow side and that you have shortcomings is part of the growth.
Yes.
So don't just lean into your chart and use that as an excuse for bad behavior because you were born with this chart. You can operate like this.
Yeah.
No, we're supposed to grow and learn as humans.
Yeah. I've met someone recently. I hardly ever meet Pisces. Hardly ever. And she said she was a Pisces, but refused to tell me the negative traits of a Pisces. And I'm like,
oh, interesting.
But I mean, maybe in my own life, maybe for you it's different. When I tell you I do not, maybe I meet people who are Pisces, they don't offer that information when we're talking about astrology.
Got it.
So what she was able to tell me was that as a Pisces, they can be flaky. And so she constantly fights against that to not be so flaky. And so to your point, I could say everything's about me because I truly wholeheartedly believe that. And because I'm aware of that, I try to manage that.
Right.
Because it's not going to serve. I live that life where everything is about me.
Right.
Sometimes it can come up and it's like, oh, okay.
But you also work in a career where you didn't make it about you. And so you're leaning into your north node, which shows that you should be stretching to this opposite sign, Aquarius. You're doing that through your career, and you're doing that through your moon sign, Libra, which is about partnership and others. And so you're not as, like, yes, you're always going to have that Leo vibe to you, but you have these other parts of you that are very much about pouring into other people, and you're a nurturer. And I think you are a giver. And so you probably just have, want the same in return. That's what I say about Leo people. Like, they'll give and give and give, but they just want the same in return. They'll give as much as they're expecting, usually. So yeah.
100%. 100%. I have a friend we always tease, like, us as Leos, she's July 25th and I'm the 27th, born the same year. And so we always talk about how, like, we'll go to bat for you. We'll show up to all your events. We'll love on you, all the things. But as soon as you disrespect me and don't appreciate what I'm doing, it's done. Like, and it's not like, it doesn't just like the lights turn off. It's kind of like little flicker warning, flicker warning. The lights, I'm gonna turn off the lights, and then it's done.
Right. You're right. It's a fixed sign. It's funny. My girlfriend that's a Taurus, we're born 2 weeks apart. She said that Leos are just exaggerated Tauruses. And I was like dying when she told me that. I was like, that's so true. It's like, there's a lot of similarities there in terms of like likes and dislikes, or, just how we go. But I think Leos are like Taurus 2.0, and like you guys like own the parts of us that we kind of like keep to ourselves.
Yes.
So I thought that was really funny. And they're both fixed signs, and one's just fire and one is earth. So that makes a lot of sense.
What do you mean fixed sign? Because you've said that before, and I was like, I thought I knew what that meant. I don't think I do.
Yeah, so every sign has a mode. It's called a mode or a modality. And so like the cardinal signs are the signs that start the 4 seasons. Again, astrology is tied to the nature cycles. So when we enter spring in the northern hemisphere, we're in Aries season. And so the cardinal points of the world, like when we go into spring, fall, winter, summer, Aries, summer is Cancer, Libra is fall, and then Capricorn is winter, and that's in the northern hemisphere. If you're below the equator, it's different. It's flipped. And so for the fixed signs are the signs that follow those, because we think the season change, but then we're in the middle of the season, and we're in the middle of spring. We have more rain, we have growth, we have plants. That's Taurus season. Summer, we're in the thick of summer. That's Leo. We're in the thick, we're in the thick of that, of the, fall, that Scorpio season. And in Aquarius, we're in the thick of winter. Like that's, in Aquarius. And so each sign is kind of associated with that energy. And then you have the mutable signs, or the signs that are in the in-between before we go to the next season. And that's when things are changed. So mutable signs are more flexible and adaptable, whereas fixed signs are more stubborn and stuck in their ways. And so the mutable signs are, Pisces and Virgo and Gemini and Sagittarius. So they're a little bit, and so one of the things when a Pisces says they're more flaky, there's a few things that are associated with that. Is it's a mutable sign. So mutable signs are kind of like, they can kind of just be so adaptable, even though Virgo's a mutable sign, and but it's an earth sign. So they're more practical in application. But Pisces is 2 fish swimming in opposite directions. They're not trying to be flaky. They're just literally living and it's ruled by Jupiter and Neptune in modern astrology. Neptune is about dissolving and not being, no boundaries. And so they live with their heads in the clouds. And so they're just going with the flow of a fish in the water. So the flakiness is that they just weren't aware and they forgot.
I see.
So there's always an explanation for tied to the mode, the qualities of the sign and the glyphs. And so it's very interesting.
We definitely be working together in the future. I don't know what that's going to look like, but we will. I will be getting a reading.
I know.
Whatever. I have 2 more questions if you have the time, and then we can.
Yes.
Okay. So one, I'm just going to say my questions, so hopefully you can help me not forget. One is, what are your favorite signs? Not like my favorite, like what are the ones that, you love to talk about if you have that.
Right.
The second question is, how could someone lean into being confident within their natal chart. Like earlier you were saying when you were in school, when you back to school, you came out as an astrologer with your project. And so just, I don't know where I'm going with that. I just feel like I wanted to bring that up. So those are my two questions. Answer however you want.
Yeah, I'll address that one first. Okay. In terms of the confidence, that, you know, that's a constant thing. Some people in their chart, it shows that they're very bold and confident. Okay. And that's a lot of different things. I won't get into it because it gets very in the weeds. But one thing I will say is your first house is you. That's your persona. That's how you're showing up in the world. And so the rising sign will indicate how you go about moving and the confidence level the planets in that house will show. And so I usually look at that to look at, and then your sun sign. Where is your sun sign? Because your sun is your expression, right? And so if I see that there's like maybe a sun in the 12th house, like maybe they prefer to work in the behind the scenes, there's always some way where they can like, I can find in the chart, like you need to lean more into this energy because that's going to help you express yourself. We all have to express ourselves some way. And I am not confident all the time. I think people see me as this like confident. I am like the most self-critical. Like I beat myself up. Saturn in the first house, conjunct my ascendant. Like I am the worst at that. But because I have Mars and Scorpio in the first house, I keep trying. So I don't give up. And so even when I'm uncomfortable and I know it's hard, I'll still do it, even though I hate it. And I think that's that I get that will, that have a lot of personal will. And I'm the firstborn child. And like, I feel like all that plays a part. As far as so hopefully that answers the question. And it's hard. It's something you have to, there's no such thing as fearlessness. I just read this in this book I picked up for $1. I went to the library yesterday, so random. I was doing some research for, one of my products, and this book is called It's Never Too Late to Fall in Love with Your Life by Wayland H. Lewis.
Write it down.
And I bought it for $1. It was like outside in the library discarding, and I just was drawn to it. And it's such it's an easy read. It's like one of those things where you can read a couple passages a day. And one of the ones today was about fearlessness. And I'll read it because it was it said, the nervous feeling in your heart, breathe in, breathe out. Stay for one moment. This is fearlessness. Fearlessness is not avoiding the ups and downs of life. It's sitting with them, listening, feeling, bowing to them, and moving forward. Fearlessness feels like fear. I won't read the rest of everything, but it's like, there's no such thing as fearlessness. That's Mars is about being bold and going after things. You just go through it regardless if you're scared or not. You're either going to do it or you're not. So I think when it comes to being bold and unapologetic, like you have to realize you're going to fail at things. You're going to be embarrassed. You're going to not be perfect. And I'm a perfectionist. So I have to constantly just push myself. And so I hope everyone listening can do that too. And then the second question is about favorite signs. Of course, I don't have a favorite sign because I don't. And I love people and I have Aquarius moon. So I'm a people person. Okay. But the people that are like the closest, you know, like my best, most of my closest friends I've known since like elementary, middle school, like we all from LA, we grew up together. I have like a crew. And so like one's a Pisces, but Pisces rules my fifth house of like fun and joy. Okay. So when somebody's sun falls into that, like they can have fun. And then one of our other besties, she has a Pisces moon, but she's a Leo sun. You know, I have a lot of Taurus friends around me just because we understand each other. My brother's a Sagittarius. We're super close, but he has a Taurus moon. So like there's synastry, right? Like his moon conjuncts my sun. My dad's a Libra. So like, it's just when you look at their synastry in the chart, and I attract a lot of Scorpios and a lot of Scorpio energy because I have so much Scorpio in my chart. And a lot of people have problems with Scorpios. Like I would say Gemini and Scorpio are the signs that I get the most like, when people come to me. And I feel bad because it's like, don't be hating on them. Like we all have it somewhere. And I have like besties that are Geminis. I don't know if I would date another one. My first serious boyfriend was a Gemini, but, you know, I attract that energy. So I understand the Scorpio energy. So I have a love for them. Like they're magnetic for me. So I would say those, if I had to pick the signs that are around me the most, I would say Scorpio. I have a lot of Sagittarius. I have a lot of Scorpios. Yeah. Pisces, Leo, Taurus.
I love it.
But I get along with everybody.
Yeah, I can tell. I can get that. Maybe there's a Scorpio romance in your future. You know, we'll see.
Girl, that's who I was dating over the summer. And I won't go into that story. That's a whole nother story. And that's the second Scorpio I gave a chance. I was with one for 4 years. The one that the web designer was a Scorpio. And I was like, I was never against it. But this time I was like, I don't know now. I am open. I wanted to marry a Capricorn and I did. And you see where
Yes.
So I am open. I want the best synastry. I'm not looking at like a sign specific. I want our charts to be
I love it.
all together, working together. So
best.
I'm putting that into the universe and I know it'll happen.
Best match people, best alignment, not what Google says is your best compatibility.
Exactly.
I love it.
Right, exactly.
Well, I could talk to you forever. Thank you so much.
Me too.
I'm like, where do I find the link to schedule with you? Where can people find you? Tell us when is the Gift of the Nile come out? Like, give us all the stuff and we'll put it in the show notes.
Right. Yeah. So you can find me at astrofashionista.com, and that's how it sounds, astro and then fashionista. That's where you can book a reading. You know, you go to scheduling and my calendar will come up. So that's the easiest way to do that. Or you can connect with me on social at astrofashionista, mostly on Instagram. And, you know, some people message me and reach out and I'll send them a link. For Gift of the Nile, the website is thegiftofthenile.com. And I have products out there. I'm launching 4 new candles linked to the 4 elements, which is really exciting.
Sexy.
All the scents I formulate myself. Again, I have a product development background, so I formulated myself. I come up with the scents based on the mythology of the god that I'm speaking to and what the feeling I want people to get when they use it. So it's very thought out. And they're luxury products. You know, that's the packaging.
So
it's black,
pretty.
made with violet glass. Thank you. To preserve the essential oils that I use. And so, you can go to the Gift of the Nile and then follow Gift of the Nile on Instagram. So those are the best ways to reach me.
Okay, well, thank you. I can totally see you selling out your products. Like, I see you at some type of like fall, Christmas. Back home, we have a lot of Christmas. What do you call them?
Yes. Those like I know what you mean, like where people come and shop and stuff like that.
Yes, a lot of those things happening.
Yes.
I'm excited for you.
Thank you.
People, you know where to find Tamerri. And everyone, you got a lot of good information. Take it all in. It's going to be great. Believe in yourself. And until next time, bye. Thank you for listening to the show, loves. This show was produced by Mackenzie Mazzell and me, Dantea. If you got a question you'd like me to answer, which I know you do, please send it to Dantea at soireesinTherapy.com. That's SOIREES for soirees. When you do that, the answer might just become an episode, and I would love to keep talking about your question. Want to work with me? The link is in the show notes. I'll see you there, and I'll see you in the next episode. Okay,